a car. So he could come over a little more often, you know, and have to go to work too. It was real nice.
What was his family's impressions of you? Uh,
Well,
that you know of from a girl coming from Chicago.
well, Bob's mother, was very leery about me because I was coming from Chicago. She said I was going to be a mall, something like these. They always advertise the bad people, these malls, what they call malls in Chicago, the mall of the gang. And that's how she had me all figured out, because I was from Chicago. She said, a girlfriend from Chicago, and you loved her? And, you know, she was really upset, Bob said. So because when she left me, she found out I wasn't one of those malls. But I had no idea that she had everybody in Chicago judged wrong, you know.
Right.
She must have thought they were all alike.
Right.
But all they'd ever read in the Dayton paper was about Chicago and their gangs, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
And even Pop told Bob that the reason he moved out of the first apartment he had up in Chicago, he found out that Al Capone lived in it. And he had the big upstairs, the whole upstairs to himself. And Pop was just below him. And Pop moved out. And I don't blame him.
No,
Because, I mean, you know, some of his gang members had come up and, yeah, Pop had no idea that there was a gangster in that building. So it was a pretty bad city, I guess. But there was a lot of people there. Now, I could go to the World's Fair. There's 3 streetcars. Lorraine and I would go together, perhaps my cousin.
And you lived with Lorraine, right?
And I lived with Lorraine. And we would come home together on the streetcar and then walk about 4 blocks to our house. I didn't think anything of it. That'd be about 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning by the time we got home. It wasn't scary. There was there was gangs in Chicago, but didn't have anything to do with us, you know.
Mm-hmm. And you visited a speakeasy one time?
Yes, with the man I went with before I met Bob. He was German. He was from Germany, and he owned what they call the Schnitzerbank Club in Chicago. So he asked me if I drank beer, and I said, oh, yes, I'll drink a beer once in a while. He said, well, I own the Schnitzerbank Club. I'd heard of the Schnitzerbank Club, but...
oh, he owned it.
Yeah, he owned it.
Yeah.
And anyhow, when we got there, he knocked on the door, and they'd open this little window, like, you know, and he'd have a secret word, a certain kind of a word, and then, of course, they'd let him in. But even if they did see him and recognize him, he still had to say that word, because it could be an impersonator. But I got bigger kick out of that than anything, that we got in. And my boyfriend owned the club. He was so nice. He was the nicest person. Yeah, he told me that if I would marry him, he said he would give me he'd give me a better life, and he'd also give me a baby.
Oh, God.
Told him one time that I would, you know. Then I got to thinking about it. I told Lorraine, I said, I can't marry him. I don't even love him. And she said, yeah, but he's so good to you, Marie, and that's what I was thinking of, just getting away.
Mm-hmm.
I told Anita this, too. Yeah, turn it off also.
On these speakeasies, you would sit around. How were they big? Were they were they dark and dingy kind of thing?
No, they were just no, they weren't dark at all. They were just, you know, open and light.
So the police were just probably paid off, or?
Well, I don't know. You know anything about it. I mean, I don't know whether they were paid off or what the heck they were. All I know is we went to Schnitzerbank Club, and that was it.
Now, your parents, well, you were living with your aunt. Your aunt didn't mind if you were dating a German. They weren't that strict about who you were dating.
She would have been glad if I'd married him just to get away. I don't know.
And Grandpa turned out to be Irish, too.
Oh, yeah, he's from Ireland. He's not from Ireland, but I mean, he was Irish descent. Oh, I'll tell you how it is. See, Aunt Nora was not my grandmother. His wife was not my grandmother. Their grandmother had died. His wife had died. And he met this Irish woman.
Wait a minute. Whose wife died?
Well, my grandfather's wife died. She was the one in bed that time, you know, died. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, I don't know how long after it was that he met this woman from Ireland where he worked. And they got acquainted, and they fell in love. And that was my Aunt Nora. So we never could call her, even though she married our grandpa, we couldn't call her grandma. You know, but we always called her Aunt Nora, which she liked. But
Okay.
she was real nice. She was real nice when I would live with them off and on, you know, and they were real nice.
And did she have any kids with him?
No. Oh, I don't know how old she was when they got married. I mean, they said she was almost 20 years younger than he was. Although, of course, to me, you know, a kid,
Yeah.
you know, she looked old.
Yeah, she's probably 30 or something.
Yeah, she probably was about 30 or 40. But they were real nice. I mean, Aunt Nora was a very nice person. And I always wish we had her on tape because she had that Irish accent. And everything would be Shura Bigori, you know. At not 11 o'clock at night, she'd say, Shura Bigori, Marie, let's have a cup of tea.
Now, what's that mean?
I don't know that.
Oh.
A cup of tea.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Shula.
the Shura Bigori is just a natural Irish saying.
Oh,
Shura
okay.
Bigori.
Okay. She was from Ireland.
Oh, yeah. She and her two sisters came from Ireland together, you know, to Chicago.
Mhm.
And Maggie, I don't know where she got a job, but anyhow, she finally got married. Mary got a job keeping a house and help. Well, not actually cleaning house or anything, but she would fix the meals for this person. And his wife had died, and fixed meals for him, and practically raised his 3 boys. And they got along so well, you know, and he was such a nice person. So she had a real nice job. Neighbors liked her and everything. She was just like one of the family. And then Nora, and Grandpa.
Now, Grandpa's family, Bob.
Grandpa is my mother's father.
Your mother's
His
father.
grandmother,
Okay.
the grandfather that I'm speaking of.
Okay. Now, your husband, Bob Phillips, what were his parents' names? Do you know? Harry. Grandpa's dad was
Well, yeah, it was Harry.
Harry
But,
Phillips.
no, Harvey
Phillips.
And Mom's, I don't know what her name was.
You called her Mom all the
I
time.
just called her Mom all
Now, he remarried.
the time. Mm-hmm.
Harvey did, and he
He
married
married Scotty.
Scotty, is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she was from Lexington, Kentucky. Well, see, I'll tell you what, Bob went to 4 high schools because Pop was always moving from one city to the other and starting up stores. And he'd have transfer high schools right in the middle of the year. And finally he was in the senior year. And Bob had gone up to Chicago to see if he could start something up there. When he did get started, got an apartment, he came home and told Mom, he'll pack your things, we're going to move to Chicago. And Mom refused. She said, no, Father's been through. This is his 4th high school. Because you keep moving, and he's going to graduate here. So, you know, he went back to Chicago. He could care less, I guess, and he met Scotty, and she was the secretary. And, or no, he was dean of Greer College at that time. Scotty was the secretary when he was the dean of Greer College. And they just, you know, fell in love. Well, I was told, too, that Pop used to like to go fishing and camping and do a lot of things that Mom didn't like to do. Because, you know, the children would get dirty and it's too hard on the children, this sort of thing, you know. And so she lived for the children, and she should have kind of gone along with him, too.
Mm-hmm.
And their kids would have loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But, so he just divorced her. That was heartbreaking. It was only a few years after that I met Mom. And she was telling me about it, you know. It was the cutest thing she'd say. And I always went to bed with him when he asked me to. But evidently not evidently, she did. She slept with Charlotte. Except
That's
when I
different.
wanted her to sleep with him. Oh, that wasn't right either.
Mm-mm.
But she was a very sweet person.
Now, Charlotte is Grandpa's sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she was married twice.
No, she didn't marry the second man.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
She married to Red.
Let's call him a boyfriend.
Okay, Red. And then she had a boyfriend years later. And,
And then Elmer, Bob's brother, moved to California.
okay,
So you probably never got to meet him.
okay. And Elmer died kind of early, young, didn't he?
He's a little bit younger than Bob, about 2 years younger than Bob at all.
Not when he died.
Oh, no, not when he died, no. Well, yeah, he was rather young when he died.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
yeah.
That's what I meant. And Grandpa had twin
He had twin boys.
brothers.
Bob and Lily had twin boys. Same age as my twin brothers. Also died at 9 months. Also died of the same thing.
Which was?
Wilson's canned milk. It was evidently the same shipment that went to Philadelphia and also went to Chicago.
And it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's so sad.
And they were both brothers. They were 4 months old, or 9 months old.
What wars did you live through?
What?
Wars,
Two.
which were
World War II.
you remember? Do you remember World War II?
All I remember is that the sirens would go off and everybody turned all their lights out.
And you would just sit there, or would you hide?
Well, I don't remember hiding, but I know we sat in the dark. There's no place to hide, but I remember we just sat in the dark, you know. The sirens would go off and everybody turned the lights out. And it wasn't always that some enemy was flying over. It's just the idea was make sure you knew what to do.
How old were you during that?
You know, I don't know.
Okay.
I never think about those years. I can't even imagine. I couldn't have been very young. No, I couldn't have been very young.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been married, for Pete's sake. I wonder what he like. It's awful to have that on there. That's when Anita was born.
Okay.
It's all coming back to me now. Because Bob came to the hospital after Anita was born and told me that he got his papers to say that he had to join the Army. You know, he was being drafted.
Oh, he'd never been in the Army yet?
No, he hadn't been in the Army because he's married. And they took the unmarried ones first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he came, anyhow, first, my Lord, I'll never forget the next few days in the hospital worrying about that. I'm coming home with a new baby, 2 other kids, 18 months apart, and no husband, and him going to war of all things. And a couple of days later, he came to pick me up, bring me home, and told me that the draft age had been raised, that he did not have to go then. It was either raised or lowered.
It would have to be lowered.
Had to be lowered, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That he did not have to go. So that's how he got out of the Army.
That was
He
really...
just lowered in time. Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, now you grew in Dayton. All your kids went to Dayton City Schools?
Mm-hmm.
Did they all go to the same school?
Yeah. They went to Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they went to Dad and Don?
The boys went to Chaminade. And then Anita, because then we moved to Miamisburg.
Okay.
So the boys took the bus, came to